Hey guys, surprise. I missed you on Monday night. It was one of those holidays where the kids didn't go to school for a really long time, and it was a day that ends in Y, so I really did not know um, up from down. And that is not terribly new, especially for me. This past year has been a real political awakening. Anyone who spent a lot of time around me knows that um, I was not I was not that politically minded before, because we're not supposed to talk about this stuff. You're not supposed to talk about religion. You're not supposed to talk about politics. And even though I'm the person who doesn't mind touching the third rail or making other people uncomfortable, I really chose to sort of wrap myself in a whole lot of privilege, if you will, and opt out of conversations that I really should have been driving for the past decade. My dad was a civil rights attorney in a small town in rural Tennessee, and he was the only person who would sue cops in the tri-state area. That did not make us very popular. There are lots of places we couldn't go. We couldn't call 911. No one would help us. And that's fine. We got like that is when I went to college and I left things behind. I started looking at global politics. I started looking at national politics. I wanted to be able to be a person in the world and not just the daughter of the guy who sues cops. I really wanted to be out of this conversation. And I was, and I stayed out of it for a really long time. And now I realize that part of that is privilege. And part of that means that listening to Black people, they literally have a very different experience, not just with the police, but they don't even see the city the same way that we do. When I talk to people in Denver, recently I was on the Brother Ford show, and he was naming people I'd never heard of. He was talking about issues that I wasn't aware of. And I said, look, I can promise you, if I don't know this, and then other white people definitely don't know this, and I'm at city council every Monday night and have been for almost a year. So with that, I don't want you to feel bad if you don't know things. Like, that's getting caught up in the fragility of it, right? What I want you to do is pay attention to some Black people who have a different experience than we do. And they've been warning us for a really long time. They warned us that Mayor Hancock was trash, but no one was paying attention to city council. And there are a whole lot of people right now who are living in Denver who don't know that we have a garbage can for a mayor who has more power than most dictators do. He can appoint everyone who matters and has a modicum of power in Denver, and that's unheard of for any major urban area. So with no further ado, I wanted to talk about, as we start to enter, whether you realize it or not, the 2023 mayor race. You've been watching me at City Council. Jesse Paris likes to put himself out there as I will be the mayor of Denver in 2023. And now others are going to start showing up, or at least positioning themselves on the scene for name awareness long before actual season kicks off. You're going to start seeing more people that you haven't heard from in a while. The first one is Albus Brooks, and how in the world he talked a Black-owned bookstore into letting him use their platform doesn't make sense to me, but what do I know? So I'm bringing in someone who's smarter than I am, and has been around longer than I have, and has been paying attention, someone we should all listen to. And it's this guy right here who's going to tell us what is wrong with Albus Brooks, or rather, you can say whatever you want about Albus Brooks, and I'm just going to listen.
Yeah, I definitely can. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Kenny. I have been, in this city my entire life, and specifically in District 9 for almost 15 years. And it's wild to see what's happening right now with Albus Brooks. Like, the fact that he was even able to speak is beyond me. So if I'm gonna speak about Albus Brooks, I gotta go way back, because he's essentially been a plague on the melanated community of this place for essentially forever, since even before he became a city council member. So, Albus Brooks. Sorry, we have to go down the long line of stuff that we're going through. So, here we go. So, Albus Brooks, along with Mayor Hancock, have basically been the proprietors of gentrification. in Denver for years. They've always been working behind closed doors with developers. Even right now, Albus Brooks works for a developer right now. So when I go back, let me start off back when he was still on city council. So when he's still on city council, these are just a few of the things that happened when he was there. So when he was on city council, we can say that basically an overwhelming majority of developer projects, especially for District 9 and other places around the city, were always approved without any form of any like affordable options. There was no way that you were going to get grandma or grandpa into one of these new apartment units that they've been building all around the city, because they're basically buying out grandma's house, trying to make her move, increasing so many things around the neighborhood, such as bus fare and food fare. The fact that District 9 is in one of the biggest food deserts in America, it attributes to that. So when we talk about like Mayor Hancock and Albus Brooks, when Albus Brooks got on city council, one of the most, I guess, one of the most heinous things he probably ever did while he was on city council was authoring the urban camping ban, the law that we have that makes it so police can abuse homeless people, and the fact that like they can basically go around, take their livelihoods, their like essentially their homes, their possessions, do whatever they want with them, and kick them onto a new place and have no ability to fight back against it, or you could end up in jail. So it's as in these things came directly out of like the Occupy movement, trying to stop people from raising their voices against some of the heinous things that are happening in this city. The fact that Albus Brooks has been and was in bed with the Denver downtown partnership was there for everyone to see. You know, he wasn't officially an employee of theirs, but he was damn sure on the books. So it's just one of those things where if we look throughout the long history of what he's done, it's so mind-boggling to me that he would even consider trying to put himself in the mayoral race, because it was really funny. Before I came on the show, I was looking up online about looking back on trying to find the links to all of the historical stuff he's done in the city and trying to find more information about Albus Brooks. But ever since after he lost, he's done very well wiping his name off of the internet, because he knows the things he's done have been pretty heinous. Like, I can tell you for damn sure it has not helped anyone in the Black community in the district he represented. 5 Points, the Black historical district of Denver, has now been hit with a wave of gentrification unlike the country has ever seen. Like, I speak to friends in Brooklyn, I speak to friends in LA, like the giant hubs of gentrification, and they look at Denver in particular and they say, my God.
Yeah.
Like, like when you have when you got people from New York and like in California telling you that the gentrification is worse here than it is out there, you know, it shapes the story for how melanated people are treated in this city. Because it's not just District 9. We can look at all the historical melanated places of Denver, and they've all been hit with wide development. You know, the best way to call it is gentrification, or as some people like to call it, you know, a modern day manifest destiny, you know?
Yeah.
So when you get to these moments and think about what's happening, we haven't even hit the scandals yet. I'll save that for later. The fact that he helped out Mayor Hancock avoid sexual abuse charges and the other stuff. So, well, again, we'll get into that later because it's more important that we talk about like this stuff, especially when we bring up how it's affected melanated people throughout the city, because people forget, because like everybody thinks that Colorado is very white, and it's just like a large population of Colorado is not white. We have a large melanated community there. There's a lot like indigenous, Hispanic, black, and it's just like, yeah, may not like have the numbers as white people, but we are still here. And it's one of those things where if you look at it, Albus Brooks is one of the like, in the black community, we like to call them Uncle Toms. Someone who is used by white people to manipulate and destroy black progress and black communities. So I think
much kinder phrase than my black protest community.
Hold on, I didn't hear that too well. Could you say that again?
I'm sorry. That is an Uncle Tom is a much kinder phrase than my.
Oh yeah, yeah. I could say like the real phrase is coon, like, but
that's what they call him.
You definitely don't need to repeat that back. But
white people can't say that.
Yeah, you don't need to repeat that back. But it's just like that.
That's how strong the stand
what has happened, because with all the things that they've done for the city, none of them have helped melanated people at all. It's brought about more change to the city. Yes, people think this city is in an economic prosperous moment, but it's just like, just because more money is here doesn't mean that the melanated communities here are doing better. No, at this point, especially with how COVID has been, melanated communities are not doing that well in this, like in Denver. They're not. It's a struggle right now. And eventually all evictions are going to start coming through. And once that happens, we all know who's going to get affected most by that. And it's melanated people. And that's just how it is.
What's the most important thing melanated people say to each other about Albus Brooks that you, let's assume white people have not heard of him before. They're like, who's Albus Brooks? Because they haven't been paying attention to city council, because what happens there doesn't affect our neighborhood in, say, Baker or Wash Park West very often at all.
It depends. Well, the race in 2019 tells you what District 9 felt about Albus Brooks. Because Albus Brooks thought he could spend money and people in the community wouldn't care or remember the things that he's done to the grandmothers and grandfathers and to the majority of melanated people in the community. Like, yeah, no, we remembered. And when there was better options, we picked them, because candy was a better option in most people's minds. And it's just one of those things where people in the community laid their judgments out because people saw what was happening in the community. Look at 5 Points now. Like, it's so hard right now to say this, but there are less Black-owned businesses now than there were even back then. And when he took over, a lot of Black businesses weren't able to stay in 5 Points either. Like, so it's one of those things where under the rule of Hancock and Brooks, we saw just the decline in Black neighborhoods. Yeah, there are more businesses now. Sometimes there have been recoveries, ups and downs in the scale, but it's just like, why aren't we improving? Why is it now that when all the white people come, we're going to see improvements in our area? Why is it the streets are getting fixed now, but not back then? Like, it's one of those things where it's just like people like Brooks think we don't see that shit, but we do. We do. It's just, and it's unacceptable. So
just the geographic area of District 9, because again, most white people watching this guarantee they have no idea what district they live in.
District 9 is basically spans all the way over almost towards City Park and then all the way back almost towards like downtown. It's pretty long. It's pretty far. And they changed the districts not pretty recently, so I may not even be correct on what it is right now. So don't quote me on that. But it's it's pretty large, District 9. Like I think most of them are though. So
and it extends north over I-70. Correct?
Yeah, and it hits towards I-70 and then back towards towards like Colfax. It's not all the way to Colfax, more like 18th, 17th, but all that entire like span of area is District 9. Like I said, they changed the districts recently, or we're going to, so do not quote me. But that is for sure what I understand to be District 9.
But if you're in District 9, you're probably within walking distance of, say, the Purina plant.
You're not too far away from them. That's for sure. You're not too far away.
And that I-70 makes public transportation difficult coming south.
Well, I-70 right now is being fixed on, and if people didn't know this, there are many people in District 9 who are fighting against it because of the displacement, the noise, the pollution that is so extreme what comes with that type of construction. So, people fought it for a long, long time, but progress, but how does it affect the melanated people when their neighborhoods are being descended upon just to make, the average person's drive easier?
Right.
So
when Black people say, because one of the comments that I saw earlier on my Facebook page about, Albus Brooks, he sold our district right out from underneath us.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Part of that is an example of that would be, and this is the biggest one I can think of that people might relate to, that's I-70. This is going to be good for us. This is going to be good for the neighborhood. But what happened was it divided Swansea and Globeville. Now they're two separate. You can't go from one to the other. It used to be you could probably cross the street. Now you have to drive 1.5 miles to come back around. And that creates the food desert that you're talking about and that what Candy is advocating for, because there's no library up there. They're putting a library in the new Rhino. And she is trying to use that as leverage to get a grocery store, which is just appalling. But that's an example of this is progress. This is good. Well, it's good for the city, but it's terrible. It has decimated our own community.
Well, it's just like, yeah, what's good for the city, but is it good for everybody in the city? That's the question that people need to really be asking. Is it good for everyone in the city? Because most of the time, with this so-called progress that's happening in the city, the fact that that's another thing about Brooks. He calls himself a progressive. Progress, but progress for who? That is the real question, is progress for who? And it's just it boggles my mind, the fact that that's even a consideration, the fact that someone like a city council member has to use a library to get to get a grocery store in that area is ridiculous. Like, it is absurd. Like, the fact that we just I guess the best way to call it is we live in a death culture. Like, people just are so self-centered around themselves and their families that they don't care about their neighbor. Like, most people don't even know who their neighbor are. And we live in a death culture. So it's just like, this is how, like, when people get in trouble for, like, dumpster diving, why would we let food rot when we can just give it to people?
Well, I saw that.
It's just like, why do we need to? There are so many things within, like, how we are running society right now that is just so inward and it doesn't think about many others. And, you know, it does come from, people like to call it white supremacy. I don't like that. I like to call it white sickness because it is a mental disease.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you think that you are better than someone because of their race and you take privileges that you have because of genocide and slavery and use them to lower people who don't look like yourselves, that is a mental disease. That is mental sickness. And honestly, that's, and anyone can be affected by it too. And that's the sad part, because you'd say someone like Hancock and Albus Brooks are affected by things like this. Like it is a mental disease. A black person can, like, I'm not going to say a black person can be racist, but I can say that society can affect a black person to where they become self-serving and won't help their own community and become a detriment to the community, because that is just what white sickness does in this society. It makes melanated people fight against each other and white people try to take all the spoils. So
feminism has a similar relationship. I'm absolutely a feminist. One of the things that we talk about is the cool girl syndrome. If you're the only woman at the table, you think that proximity to power gives you power when you don't realize that you're the token. And you look at the other women and you say, well, it's because you didn't play the game correctly and I did. I deserve to be here. I shouldn't have to help you. You should have helped yourself. It's that sort of nastiness where it's like, I conformed and they don't see that they're part of the problem. That's kind of, if I had to compare it to anything to make it understood to a white woman, that's the paradigm that I would use. That girl that thinks that she earned it because she's one of the guys, and it's gross and it's just not true. It's not how it works.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that first part for sure. And it's just like, why haven't you conformed to the white sickness? Like, why haven't you given in to white sickness? You know, you can move this far up, you can get this much power, but it's just like, how are you leveraging that power? Does that power make it so you like are a detriment to your own people? Like that is what happens, you know. There's a saying that says power corrupts absolutely.
It does.
And it's just like, it can. Like there's so many people who may have started in better places, but then got a taste of power and then lost themselves in the white sickness. You know? So absolutely. That is definitely something that can happen, you know, and that ties into all of that. So,
well, I know that a lot of people, and I remember seeing Facebook posts about this after the election, where people said, I'm so proud to be in Colorado. Today I voted for a black man to be mayor and a gay man to be governor. And now my soul just kind of curdles.
Let me stop you real quick. Tell those white people, you just, like, every black person in the room is just like, slow hand clap. You voted for a black person, but does that help black people? Does that help melanated people? Is that going to help is this person's policy going to help the indigenous community as much as it's going to help the black community? Like, there's so many things within it that, like, people just lose, and it's just like, yay, white folks. Yay, I'm proud of myself. I did this. Now my white guilt will be less. It's not how this shit works. It's just not. Like, it's not how it works. It's not how real life is. It's like, sometimes I feel like white people live in a fantasy bubble where it's just like, if things are going well for them, they can't see the destruction that is happening all around them.
Yeah.
And that happens.
That's true. That's absolutely true. My experience for 7 years has been that I was pregnant and having babies. And my entire, because I had 4 babies in a 7-year period, my entire world was a mile radius of my house. I think about how easy it was to be blissfully unaware for so long. And that's sort of my fear and why I want to have this series as the mayoral race starts to kick off. Because this guy's going to announce, not soon, but it's this when you start doing your book tours and talking to people and positioning yourself and cleaning up your LinkedIn.
No, cleaned up the internet, pushing up people. No, this whole thing about being a politician. It's just like I need to make myself look as squeaky clean as possible. The people been living in this city, and that's a thing that's very unique to Colorado. A lot of people are transplants here. They're not from Colorado, so they're not really deeply ingrained into the political systems here. So you can put on a clean face, put on the mask, and be like, oh, this is what I am. This is great. Oh, I'm black. I'm melanated. I can do this and be great. And you can draw on people and be like, oh, I'm new from this place. I don't know anything about the political climate here. I don't know anything about the history here. And it's just like, you can come into Colorado, then you'll look at somebody like a Hancock or Brooks, and you won't see their dirty laundry, and you'll be like, oh, this guy sounds great, when he's just someone who's going to manipulate and force destruction upon like melanated communities, at the like for white corporations, for people like the Denver Downtown Partnership, for like development groups that have basically taken over our city. So it's one of those things. Yeah, that is very true. Like, it didn't really help though, because again, like, it's very unique here. The transplants here are very unique, because a lot of people don't even care about the history here. A lot of people come, oh, it's pretty. Oh, there's weed. Oh, I can get a lot of liquor. Oh, the laws are fantastic. They just don't care. Yeah. And that's what I deal with a lot of white people here. It's just blissful ignorance. It's just like, I don't care. Things seem all right here. Yeah, let's do it. And that's just not how it is for melanated people in this community. Like, it's not. Like, God, talk to the people from the north side or the south side, over here on the east side. There's no side of the city that has not been completely devastated by gentrification and white sickness. There's no group that hasn't been affected by it either. And it's very wild when you see men like Albus Brooks, because you'll notice during election time, keep eyes out for this. You'll notice who knows about the history of the city, and you'll notice who like doesn't know about the history of the city by the questions that are asked in like meetings and all these other things in town councils. And this is why like histories should not be buried. This is why history is important. Seeing how these people voted is so important, and it's one of those things where it happens, like, and to all those like white folks out there, it's just like, yeah, you're a new transplant. You've added to the gentrification out here, It happens. Like, and it sucks to look at yourself and be like, yo, I'm part of the problem. Denver is now the fastest growing city in the country. Why is that?
And now it's kind of to be in this odd place. As a white woman who is quite vocal about Hancock, the reception I get from other white people is like, oh, it's, you're saying mean things about a black man. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about a politician. So one, that's punching up, public figure too. So then even having to break it down because people are so resistant, like, you can't say these things. I'm like, I didn't say anything inappropriate. I said, Hancock's a disaster. Albus helped him out. If there were two things me personally, if I wanted to communicate to all my white friends, anyone who might consider casting a vote in the primaries when the mayoral primaries come up, remember that Albus Brooks was the co-creator and sponsor of the camping ban, and two, that he helped clean up that sexual assault mess for Hancock. What are the things that you would want people to know?
There's even more than that. Like,
I'm sure.
People don't even remember about the whole ink scandal when they were like basically those fuck shit signs. Oh man, and how he was the one who gave them the cultural identity training behind closed doors that apparently say that they were okay and all right, you know, to be in the community after very vocally being very against melanated people and the homeless community in this city. So yeah, it's just there again, just so many things. But again, like people like to bury these things, like to put them in the past. And with transplants, they don't know. They just don't know. And most of the time, they don't care. So you can put that away, put on the face, play off of white guilt. White people aren't even looking into your background. So yeah, I'll play off it all day long. And it's really rough and tough when you do it, those types of things. Yeah.
Well, let's meet this man. Here he is in the flesh, Albus Brooks, a tattered cover.
And I would come back to the door like, God.
Your mic's hot. Say whatever comes into your head. If you've ever seen my streams before, I don't hold back. You shouldn't either, Kim.
Conflict of what was going on, but I was transforming. I felt myself transforming when I was in college.
So do you remember what some of the titles were that helped with that transformation? Or that
hey, transforming in college? You know he went to, you would know he went to CU Boulder.
But it was
just like transforming in college. Sometimes college can transform you in a good way and a bad way.
I remember turning each page. I was 20 years old. I was reading through it. And that was the time when the thing that fired in me was calling, right? Like, Malcolm had a calling on his life, and he lived so many lives that people don't really talk about.
He just said his favorite book was the biography of Malcolm X. What do you think Malcolm X would have said about the camping ban?
To being in jail,
again, quoting Malcolm. This,
dogmatic
does, and he quotes Malcolm.
Transformation,
and it sucks because this person probably doesn't even know who the fuck he is.
Being as
probably not. I bet she doesn't.
Love and actually embracing Martin, Luther King, and not. So there was all of this. I just loved it. I was enthralled.
And quoting Martin.
I said, man,
the author of the Urban Camping Ban trying to quote Martin.
Supposed to be doing. So I think that was the book that really launched me.
Honestly, at this point, it's just like the cojones, the amount of blasphemy to do that shit, the amount of madness,
and all these other things. So
like out of your head, and this is why I call it white sickness.
That you admit to that, and that you're willing to own up to that weakness, and in a way, part of the series.
I'm quoting you on Twitter right now.
Walls.
I bet this lady doesn't know who he is.
Sorry, I have another screen here that has the chat. There's a lot of wonderful people that, like your mother's saying how proud she is of you, and there's all these people, so it's a little distracting, and I apologize.
His mother, you really think she's proud?
I'm curious about the different perspectives that you got in college that really helped shape who you are and led in your career, because your next step, so to speak, in your career was a career in ministry with Youth Life, and how those doors that books open, that next step in your life, and helped you find that calling.
Oh my God.
What can you tell me what that experience was like?
Yeah,
Shannon Hoffman, I love you, by the way.
For me, the study of religion really.
I'm posting some of the comments.
And I think
This is
I brought up
amazing.
Jainism, and a lot of folks don't even know what Jainism is, but
Oh, screw you. Yeah, we do.
me. Like, we're geeking out
You
right now.
elitist piece of
So,
shit. That wasn't necessary. You know
The
what Jainism
thing
is.
at 20 years old, here I am. I'm a kind of Pentecostal type Christian dude growing up, but I wasn't exposed to so many other thoughts and philosophies. I learned about the Jains in India. And
The Jains, what would the Jains think of your motherfucking camping ban?
devout people who never wanted to kill life, right? Who wanted to preserve all of life. And I just began to think like, man, they have a calling on their life, and I have a calling on my life. So where is this coming from? And so, read a lot on Mahandi and read a lot on Hinduism, read a lot on Buddhism, a lot on Islam, and Judaism, and all of these religions, how powerful and how called each of these individuals and the people felt to their daily life. And that, it kind of messed me up, right?
Just listening to this man, it's kind of ridiculous. And this is where you see like the putting on of the mask, where it's just like, no, this isn't my real face. I'm this. I'm positive, happy-go-lucky. And if I'm a brand new white transplant coming from some other city, I'm in a place that's now majority white, I'm just feeling all nice and calm. Oh, look at this black guy. He's talking about peace and love. When the actual policy say otherwise, when the actual devastation of life says otherwise. So that is the things that people need to look at. This is why you have to pay attention within certain things, within all politicians here. You can't be new to a place. Has to vote.
I'm curious about that
and not
juxtaposition.
think it's not going to affect how shit goes.
In basic terms, there seems to be a lot of juxtaposition in your life of the nurse, the jock, and like you said, being a god and then being judged on campus for the color of your skin, and being at an educational institution where it appears that you did not feel like you belong. That's what I'm hearing, and I'm curious about how were books ever an escape from that, or did they just instead continue to open your eyes and made you realize all of that calling? Was there ever a sense of escapism that came with that? With the reading?
Okay, so this is great. This is great. I am not the reader that gets at a fire and hides and reads 3 books. That's not who I am. I'm the reader who reads and like, I got to debate this with someone. Like, I got to get this out. And so I was the nerd that read all of the class discussion, all the books, did some research. We just had internet at that time. Am I dating myself?
Can you take this off? I'm done with this.
You're done? All right.
I'm done with this. I'm done with this.
It's a
You
bullshit.
only listen to someone spout bullshit for so long,
Yeah.
Like, I can only listen to bullshit for fucking so long.
No, I hear you. Let me say religious. How to kill. Okay, the thing I'm happy about, Tan Tigress, y'all, that's Rebecca. I love her. Rebecca Henderson. Ask Albus if he's ever read How to Kill a City, Gentrification, Inequality, and the Fight for the Neighborhood. James believe in the sacred nature of life, regardless of standing, belief, or wealth. How has that belief affected your policy writing decisions regarding the unhoused? Is that cast of life sacred to you? I love it. So if you could come over here and see the comments, I'm trying to get them on screen. Just Weirderholt. So right now, there are 27 people watching that, and almost all of them are members of a group that I'm in called From Allies to Abolitionists, which is a project of the Emancipation Theater run by Jeff Campbell and Shannon Hoffman, who've been training up their debate squad to go to city council and really push back against some of the inhumane practices. And so even if they don't stop to interrupt, all of these comments are there on public record. So if ever there's a chance for this guy to be seen for who he is, this might be the year. Keep talking. Tell us whatever you want to say. Floor is yours, but I'm going to keep his picture here. And because
no. Take that picture off. Take that picture off. I do not want that picture of that man in my face.
Done.
Like, seeing this dude literally disgusts me.
Okay.
Because of what he's done to the community. Like, the results of what he has done to the community has poisoned it. He has poisoned his own community. Like, I can only look at a coon for so long. Like, I can only listen to a coon speak for so long. Like, it's ridiculous how he does, it's snakes. You see snakes in the grass. That is what that is. You got snakes that lie in the grass and they put on a mask. You think you're safe, and then you're poisoned, And God, I just seeing that dude gets me so fucking frustrating. Like, because of, like, you know, the grandmothers and grandfathers you can talk to who now can't live in their own communities anymore. The shit that keeps you up at night, that makes you fucking cry to fucking sleep because you have no control over legislation, you know? And people are just like, what's the difference between racism and prejudice? Why? And people be wondering sometimes, why can't black people be racist? Because I do not control the policies that make it so my community can't go to the schools they want, get the funding they need, surviving off of, I mean, the things I've said earlier speak for themselves. Like, I still live in the biggest food desert. They're just now working on the roads now that all the white people have moved in. Like, it's just, it's very clear to see what the priorities are. So
Disgusting.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the ink scandal.
Yes.
What else do we not know about this person that won't be discussed in that Tattered cover event that clearly Allies to Abolitionists has covered?
Because if I am correct, within the let me go back to him and Hancock with the scandal with the sex workers. And of all of that, that was like news that people were seeing nightly, all of that stuff. But somehow within it, those two were able to get out of any punishment, any jail time, and still to this day, if I'm correct, the sex workers are the only people who ever had to do jail time and had actual punishment over the whole scandal.
Really?
Yeah.
So
he apologized publicly.
Well, that's nice. Was it like a Justin Timberlake style apology where he puts it on Instagram and never talks to Janet Jackson? Or who did he apologize to?
Don't even know. I think he did like a tweet, maybe a interview on the news. When you have that type of power, you can basically get out of anything in the city. And like, as you said, like, because we live in a different city than what most people are accustomed to because of the rules that were made back in the like late 1800s, early 1900s here. The mayor has insane amounts of power. Insane amounts of power.
You know, he appoints the sheriff. The sheriff is elected in most places.
Yep. He appoints essentially every position. Like, and it's just, how is that not corrupted in any way? Like, how does that make any sense? You know, it's called a strong mayor city, is what it's called, the political system. So it's a strong mayor city, and it goes all the way back to, I believe, what is the name? He was one of the early mayors back in the day. Sorry. He'll come back to me. He'll come back to me.
That blue horse out by the airport had a name, so.
Yeah. Oh, man. The story about that thing is crazy. It killed its owner, and the piece that killed its owner, they put it back on top. So so the original piece that killed the owner is the, like, those eyes are part of the original piece that, like, killed the owner.
Oh my God. I had no idea. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. We can save we'll save the DIA conspiracy theories for another day, because if we went deep into that, like, they just make jokes about it now because so many people know about it. Like,
that's the thing. It's not even backdoor dealing has become the hallmark that it's expected, and you can't. It's not even conspiracy theory. Like QAnon now people believe like that there are Jewish space lasers or something. I still don't completely understand that scandal. That Pizzagate happened. So, that isn't a step too far. But when you talk about something that's these backdoor dealings, it's like, well, yeah. And it's either there's total apathy about it. It's like you have to explain why you consider it to be outrageous, or it wasn't in the newspaper, so it must be conspiracy theory. But I think it's very clear Hancock really wants his legacy to be that damn airport. He wants his name on it.
I mean, if you look at the rest of everything else he's done, it's like he doesn't want it to be looked at as like, what did the black mayor do for the black community? Because if we look at that way, shit, whoo, definitely failed there, shit.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's one of those things where at this point, puppets on a string, like people in these places of power, like are just influenced by who has the most money. Like, that's just all it is now. Like, doesn't matter if it's in the federal branch or the state local branch at this point. Like, if you got the money, you're influencing everything. And that's just how our government works. That's just how it is now. Like, money talks.
Oh, there's someone going hard for him right now in the comments. One person doesn't have as much power as you think they do. I'm like, which is literally, I'm
not
like,
in this city. Not in this city. Man, if you knew what the mayor could do, like, and what the mayor has done, so, like, that's and it's very well known that a lot of the mayors, especially back in the day, were fucking, like, the Klan influenced so many things. Like here, like Stapleton is more than just like Stapleton now in like with that shit. Like the Klan had such control here, and they put themselves in such positions of power and would easily put themselves and tic-tac their own people into positions of power that, with how the laws are made out here, damn sure one man can make power, because that one man appoints basically all of the major positions of the city. So except for city council, that's like the one of the few things. The city council, the Senate, legislation, and representatives. That's it. Everything else is under Hancock's control within the city limits of Denver. So that's a lot of power.
Yeah, no, it is. And I was on the Brother Jeff show 6 or 8 weeks ago, and I know that he was really surprised that I voted for Lisa. I really wanted Lisa. I love Lisa Calderon, and I wasn't even really paying attention to things back then. I saw her speak once, and I was like, oh, I like you so much. I was really disappointed that she didn't make it all the way. She's not the mayor, but there was evidently a lot more contention around the mayoral campaign last time.
Oh yeah, apparently it was just like it was the same thing as the national election. Do you want to deal with piece of shit 1 or piece of shit 2? And representative to the national election, it was rapist 1 or rapist 2. Here it was piece of shit 1 or piece of shit 2, because both of them within their voting and their policies have been awful for the community, like both of them. And that's why it was kind of sad to see like someone who could have been a new fresh face, who's actually done a lot of things in the community, not get a chance to actually do it. So it made me sad too, but that's the thing nowadays. People are just so stuck on Republican, Democrat. Oh, we can't do third party. Oh, we can't be independent. Oh, it has to be this or it has to be that. It's just like, we need to look at what the real world is actually, what is happening on a day-to-day basis in the real world. Use the brains that have been given to you by God in this earth or whatever you believe in. And it's just like, dude, like use it. use it. Like, is this actually making your community better? Is these policies making things better? Because if we can look around the city, people point at COVID and say, oh, COVID's been the issue. No, COVID was used to further the city's agenda on making shit worse. This is why city council went behind closed doors for months and months and months at a time, getting shit like that done, and went virtual, and it's still virtual. And it's just like, how is that actual city council? COVID issues. And it's kind of funny how after protesting happened that they all went indoors.
Right? That was an amazing night. I gotta say,
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that people use their voices and actually summon a bit of power, and this is how your system reacts. Because if we go against the status quo, we're not making money. You know? But again, making money doesn't make the community better. Helping the community, putting resources into the right places makes the community better. Having housing makes the community better. Affordable housing. Thank you. Like, it's just, at this point, like, there's so many things that are manipulated by money here that people like look at Denver and say, oh, it's just this wonderful progressive place. But it's just like, you know, the amount of corruption that is laid through in this city is pretty widespread. Like, it is. And it's tough to see, you know, and it all starts at the top. It starts with the mayor, and then it funnels down into the city council where, you know, I can only say there's maybe 1 or 2 city council members within the last, like, decades that I've actually really trusted. Like, and that's sad. Mm-hmm. That's sad that so many of the city council members vote with a pocketbook in mind, vote with money in mind, don't vote with the actual principles of how this will affect their city members and in mind. Like, when people voted for I-70 and stuff, did they think about what was going to happen to District 9? I bet you they didn't give a fuck.
No.
You know?
Where's that?
So it's just one of those things that, again, like, I will relate it back to what I said earlier. It's just, we live in this culture where we're so self-serving within ourselves that we just don't think about others within a way. And it's just because we live in a society that makes it detrimental to think about others. And so people just now focus on themselves and their families and don't even know their neighbor, don't care about anything. It's just, it you know, death culture.
Well, death culture. I got to say, too, next door made me not want to know my neighbors. I don't need to know exactly which ones are warning everyone about the black man who knocked on their door at 7 p.m. Well, he's wearing a postal uniform. Is anyone aware of a scam?
Sometimes I'd say, why not talk to that neighbor?
Oh my God.
Why not? At this point, it's just like, do you want to see that melanated person be affected, be put in a situation where they're like gonna probably be unsafe around their own home? Like, yeah, no, talk to your fucking neighbor. Fuck them. Like, talk to them. Make it awkward as shit. Like, do whatever needs to be done. Because if we don't use our emotions, we don't use our voices, things continue to stay the same. And I can look around right now and I can tell you pretty damn easily that the same is not working for anybody. Mm-hmm. Even these white people who are comfortable.
I know. And
that's crazy. Mm-hmm. When your own system is that fucked up, that when you're successful and comfortable, oh, I'm depressed. Oh, I'm fucked up. Oh, I don't have this. Oh, I need that. And that's just because of how shit is in our society now. How people just don't raise their voices and take care of each other.
It's really sad. Where's the most effective place, in your opinion, where our voice could be useful?
You know, as of right now, especially with how COVID is and so many things happening at once, I would say that people's and best places to put their voices right now is everywhere. You know, Colorado is a weird place, especially when it comes to activism. You know, people say things die out in the wintertime. It doesn't die out, it shifts.
Yeah.
Be thinking about mutual aid, building with others. So when it gets warmer outside, you can have these relationships built, and you can have these like be building funds, be building and distributing things to the right places. So when it comes to times when people want to be like, oh, I want to get in the streets, or oh, I want to work on this law because it's a new session, or I want to or I want to get like this done at the sweeps. Like, there are so many places to make yourself heard because there's so many things that are fucked up right now. So at this point in time, I would say do it everywhere. You know, if you can't leave your house, you know, do stuff online, but don't think that online is going to do everything. Try to get out there, you know, especially with how things are right now. It's depressing. It's fucked up, you know, and people want to stay inside and avoid COVID. Yeah, that's real. But, you know,
Absolutely.
people need help at the sweeps. People need to show up and have their voices heard in so many different places. So, you know, I'd say, you know, it's on you. Like, I can only say thoughts and ideas, you know, it's on everyone out there to do what they need to do. Shit, I know I can do more myself. You know, that's just how it is.
And that's why I see you everywhere.
You know, yeah, you know, and that is the thing. I want to be everywhere, and it's really hard when I'm not able to. You know, it sucks when I'm just like, all right, I need to do stuff and take off, and it's just like, no, sometimes you got to take time for oneself to get yourself. Burnout is real, you know, self-care is real. Take time out for yourself and get yourself in that right position in place, because life is hard. Every day is different. It presents new challenges, new goals, and that's how, like, you just need to do. You just need to continue to push, continue to grow. You know, I think Bruce Lee said it like best. You know, you want to be like flowing water. You want to not be stagnant. You want to keep yourself flowing, moving, and going, because then change will happen. And with change, there's always evolution, whether good or bad. You know, that's just how life is. You know, it's just the roll of the die.
Very well said. Well, on that note, I think it's a good place to go start, leave this conversation and start practicing modicum of self-care. Dr. April Alexander speaking in the Allies to Abolitionists Facebook group. Okay, there are things going on all the time. It's amazing how overwhelming it is to be active in anything in the city. Monday night city council, Tuesday nights the RTD, and Chantel Lewis needs all the help she can get. She goes hard in the paint every single week, and they are doing legit, open, racist shit I've not seen since I lived in Texas. They just doing it in these meetings. It's horrifying. So there are lots of places where we could be doing things. It can be a little hard to know where to start. If you'd like some help, hit me directly. I am happy to kind of tell people where I think is a good place to start. Come out to Monday Night Mutual Aid with Walla Moms and the Buddhist Grandma in front of City Council. We're hoping to grow this over the winter enough that when the summer comes, we can raise awareness outside, then raise hell inside, because those guys are going to have to come back at some point.
Ooh, and before we go, are there any questions before we go, just really quickly, that I can answer? And I do want to give a shout out to Denver Freedom School. They have been doing a lot of fantastic free educational work out here in the community, and I wanted to shout them out because they have been doing fantastic work. They do readings, classes, you know, and especially right now, there's a lot of mutual aid happening, and they are also doing that as well. So I want to give them a big shout out.
That was wonderful. And that's the Independent Freedom School, not the Freedom School associated with BLM 52.
Yes, that is the independent one.
Okay. Just like I got schooled on that the other day.
Let me give love to both of them, though, because both
Yes.
freedom schools are doing fantastic things, and education is always wonderful because knowledge is power.
Absolutely. The more you know, the further you go.
Exactly.
So I do have hope for this city, and it's gonna. I think if the one key takeaway, the pull quote would be aligning with the Black community is not the same as voting for Albus Brooks. If you vote for Albus, you're voting against the Black community.
That is essentially what is happening. If we want to make it plain and simple, if you're voting for Albus Brooks, he's going to put more gentrification into the community. He's going to put more harm against the homeless community. And all of these communities are very, very, very melanated communities. So if you believe that you are one of these white folks or a melanated person who really thinks that you are about helping the melanated community, do not. If this dude tries to actually put in a bid, vote for this guy and make sure that he is accosted at every turn. Same thing with Hancock.
Yeah. And for us to be having this conversation on yet another snowy night in the middle of a cold snap about the two Black men who work to get the camping ban and uphold it at every turn. It's hurtful and disgusting. We could go on all night about that, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate the input. And I appreciate, because you've been really generous with your time. I just want to thank you.
Oh yeah, no. This is fine. Like I do a lot of work with like video and audio, so this is nothing new to me.
You're clearly totally comfortable. Most people come on, they're like, oh, they freeze. It's always fun. I like, well, you didn't need any of that, like massaging before we went on. You're great. Well, hopefully we'll see you again soon. But otherwise, y'all, coach, you're loved. Go have a good night. And yes, do stay safe and warm.